good afternoon. I am Rawan Mlih. Today I'm going to present the results of my review about light expanded clay aggregates as substrate in constructed wetlands. My institute is IBG-3 Agrosphere. My PhD is under the supervision of Professor Erwin Klopp and Dr. Roland Boll. Also, I have to say that I'm registered at Aachen University, RWTH, at Institute of Environmental Research. So here we go. Water is a precious resource. So there's more than 2/3 of the Earth planet's or surface is covered with water, but only a fraction is left for human consumption or as fresh water, is about 3%. As the world's population grows fast, the water supply is coming under increasing pressure. So there's about 2.6 billion people who already have no safe access to drinking water, and other 2 billion who actually live in water scarce area. And there's a projection by 2050 that 3 billion people will be projected to live in dry areas. Yet 50% of this world fresh water reserve is polluted either by nutrient pollutants like nitrogen, phosphorus, or heavy metals. So the crisis of water, of course, is a result of a wide range of pollutants that end up in freshwater bodies such as lakes, rivers or streams, and eventually ends in the groundwater. Of course, wastewater has many resources or sources, mainly the sewage and the domestic wastewater discharge, which is high in organic matter and in other pollutants. Here we need to maybe differentiate between the domestic and the municipal wastewater. The domestic mainly comes from the households, while the municipal water may carry other organic and inorganic pollutants, because the municipal water may contain water from factories, from slaughterhouses, or from farms. The other source of water, wastewater, is the agricultural activity. And this type of activities, they account for the release of pesticides, phosphorus, and nitrogen into the environment. Here if we talk about the agriculture, we should not also forget that agriculture also includes the farming. So another also sort of pollutants is discharged into the environment, like include animal wastes, which have high solid concentrations and high nitrate, phosphorus, antibiotics, and pathogens. But the most challengeable wastewater to treat is the industry water, or the industrial water, simply because of the high diversity of pollutants that respond to the type of the factory or the type of the industry. But mainly this type of water contains heavy metal like lead, arsenic, and organic and inorganic compounds. Of course, wastewater treatment is taking place worldwide, but yet there is 80% of the wastewater produced worldwide is not treated and is discharged into the environment without any reuse or treatment. If we look at the map, we can see the countries that already have advanced technology to treat its water. The green color represents the percentage of the water treated. So it's between 75 to 100, and it's like in countries like Canada, United States, and Europe. Coming next with the yellow color, like these countries, they treat and reuse a percent between 50 to 75. And it's Mexico, Australia, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt, and part of Europe. The other countries in red color have less than 50%, and concentrated actually in Latin America, in North Africa, and in China. So we see that the world is still lag behind in treating its wastewater. But also, if we look at the the next figure, we see what type actually of pollutants that the countries succeeded to treat or to remove from wastewater. Mostly from the bars here, you see that more than 80 countries could successfully remove the organic matter from the wastewater and the total suspended solids. And those simply because the mechanism behind removing such pollutants is simple. But if we look at the nutrients, for instance, the ammonia, ammonium, and phosphorus, it's still a challenge simply because the mechanism is very complicated, and because it comprises biological, chemical, and physical processes. Also for the pathogens that need certain chemicals, and also a budget to treat the water from it. I will not talk about the traditional or the conventional wastewater treatment, because this is really a very big, large subject that I cannot cover here. But I will talk about an alternative, environmental friendly approach that has been used since the 50s, which is called constructed wetlands. It's a green technology for water remediation with almost zero energy consumption. So wetlands has been introduced, or has been, as the name shows, it's constructed. So it's constructed by a human, but it simulates the wetlands that already exist in the nature. In some areas, of course, not in many areas. And it has been introduced by a German researcher in early 50s. And after that, the technology has been developed and applied in many countries. If you see the map, that the countries that already have more than 600 to 1,000 constructed wetlands, it's in the United States, and then followed by Canada, in Europe, mainly in the Netherlands, in Australia, and some in China. But if you see the blue dots, that tells us that only 10 constructed lands are constructed there. We see that those in Africa, Middle East, in North Latin America, and in South Europe. So constructed wetlands is an approach, an alternative approach for treating a wide variety of wastewater, including municipal, stormwater, and industrial water, landfill leachate, groundwater, and agricultural runoff. It's simply composed of natural components, such as of course, the water, and the filtration media, the substrates, the vegetation, which also contribute to the pollutants removal through the uptake by the plants. Of course, it needs simple infrastructure like pipes for inlets and outlets of the water and a pump. The removal mechanisms involved in constructed wetlands for removing the pollutants is physical, by precipitation of the pollutants on the porous media, or what we call the substrate, and I will come to this later in another slide, and chemical, like ion exchange or biological, also biological interaction, like degrading the organic matter by the microorganisms and uptake of the pollutants by the plant. Constructed wetlands, of course, on contrary to the conventional water treatment, which needs high capital costs and high energy consumption, high maintenance costs. Also, there's a problem with the sludge production from the conventional or traditional water treatment because of the management and the treatment and the cost. The constructed wetlands can present a solution for water shortage, like the water, we can use the water in agriculture, for instance. Also, we can retrieve nutrients from constructed wetlands after the water with nutrients pollutants came in contact with the media. We can use this media as a fertilizers for agriculture. Of course, we can use the sludge as biogas for biogas generation. We can also, the constructed wetlands have, as I said, zero energy consumption, so the energy efficiency improved. It's a mean for smart infrastructure cities, and nowadays they construct what it's called the sponge cities. Like if a city is connected to a large constructed wetlands, from this constructed wetlands they can generate electricity, they can purify the water, and of course reuse the water for other purposes. Of course, the biodiversity, because the constructed wetlands work as a habitat for different type of animals and birds. I just want to show you some samples of constructed wetlands. The first one is constructed wetlands for a school in the United States. Actually, this was in Washington, I guess. And you can see that all the school wastewater is connected to the constructed wetlands. After that, the water generated from this constructed wetlands is used to irrigate crops and trees within the school. There's another example about sewage treatment in the UK. In another example, we see how the constructed wetlands is playing as a recreational place. As I said, because of the biodiversity, the plants. One of the achievement, I would say, for constructed wetlands has been established in Oman for purifying the oil for the wastewater resulted from oil industry, and it's a massive constructed wetlands. So yeah, we can see that it can be used for different type of wastewater and can give us many ecosystem services. Constructed wetlands, of course, there are three main types. The first one is the free water surface flow, and this type we can see the water flows above the sediments, so it's exposed to the atmosphere. In this type of constructed wetlands, it has really high nitrogen removal can reach 95% and high reduction of organic matter and other solids. The other type is the subsurface flow constructed wetlands, and in this type, the water, we don't see the water pass within the media under the plants. And this type also is used for treat nutrient-rich wastewater, and also it has very high nitrogen reduction and also phosphorus reduction. From this type of subsurface flow constructed wetlands, there are three major types. It's the horizontal subsurface flow constructed wetlands, the vertical flow constructed wetlands, and the hybrid system. The hybrid system is a combination of the vertical and the horizontal one, and it's used to treat the very complicated, I would say, wastewater that really have high pollutants. So in the horizontal subsurface constructed wetlands, the wastewater is distributed at the inlet and flows horizontally through the filter media below the surface of the wetlands. The filter material, of course, can be coarse sand, can be gravel, can be any other. I will come to that in a minute. It can be other byproducts material that can serve as can serve surfaces for pollutants to be catched. While the vertical subsurface flow system, the flow is vertically, if you can see here, from the septic tank, the flow goes vertically from the plants into the media and then collected at the bottom of the constructed wetlands. So the filtration media, which is, I would say, the very important part of any constructed wetlands, it's a home for many chemical and biological processes to take place, and without it, there's no constructed wetlands. It's the substrate size and shape also affect the movement of the water through the wetland. It provides a storage for many contaminants, and it affects the availability of dissolved oxygen that it's critical for the microorganisms to do their jobs by degrading the organic matter. For constructed wetlands, there are wide range, this is just a few, wide range of substrates, of course classified to three main categories: the natural substrates like sand, gravel, zeolite, and soil, while byproduct substrates, it's like alum sludge, shale, meal, slag, and rice straw. Of course, in this presentation, I will talk about LECA, the light expanded clays, and recently it has been used as a substrate for its benefits for constructed wetlands. So LECA is just a clay, it's just soil, and it's manufactured. So the ingredient material can be clay, can be shale, can be any industrial waste. And it go through a process to come to its final shape. So it's exposed to very high temperature, like more than 1000 degrees. And the final shape, as you may see, is granules that have different sizes, but from inside they have very large area. But LECA is not only used in constructed wetlands. It can be used as material for highways because it has a high filtration rate, and it can be used for greenhouses, not greenhouse, the one we grow vegetable inside, but the environmental friendly houses. So the characteristics of the material. It is, first, it's based on natural material, so it's not synthetic material. It can be used after saturate, after use this material in the wetland. We can excavate it and add it to the soil, and then we have natural fertilizers. And also there's a benefit that clay is available, soil is available everywhere, so it can be produced and can be also affordable at low prices. Of course, its performance in constructed wetlands is very high. So it has nitrogen removal that can reach 90%. It has phosphorus removal also nearly to 90%, organic contaminants 99%, and pathogen like E. coli. It has also high removal rates. So what are the mechanisms that are involved in removing pollutants in LECA-based constructed wetlands? There are many mechanisms, as I said, from chemical, biological, and physical, but mainly for phosphorus and nitrogen, it's either absorbed or uptaken by the plants, or degraded by organisms. The same for the organic matter. For heavy metals, also part of phosphorus is sedimented on LECA surfaces. And if we look for ammonia, it's just volatilized in the air. The pathogen removal in constructed wetlands on LECA-based constructed wetlands also involve biological, physical, and chemical removal. Mechanisms are mainly driven by combination of sedimentation, filtration, and natural die-off. Lately, in recent years, actually, they have introduced many techniques to enhance the performance of LECA. So they use the coating. So they coat this material with iron and aluminum oxides, magnesium nanoparticles. Also, this coating has a positive effect on phosphorus and arsenic absorption and removal. They use also additives, so they add materials like carbonate, iron oxide, fly ash, and quartz to in the production phase to enhance the physical characteristics of LECA. The latest is the bioaugmentation. So they inoculate this material with a fungus, and this was found to enhance the denitrification and enhance the pesticides degradation. But the challenging of using LECA, of course, there's a negative part of all of this thing. It's in constructed wetlands, there's what's so-called the clogging problem, that at certain point this material is saturated and it cannot be effective anymore. So it needs to be regenerated. For instance, for large constructed wetlands, they may cost a lot of money to excavate the material and install another material. And also the structural modification for increasing LECA inner pores is still a question. What would be the fate of LECA if we use this LECA for absorption of toxic substances? Then where we go with this material? It's already a toxic material. And of course, the question of recycling and using this material as amendment or fertilizers upon saturation. There's also a question of energy consumption, because it is manufactured at high energy or at higher temperature, and this costs energy. From this, I could write a review, which is published recently, with my supervisors, with also a partner from Hebron University, and also two other doctors from Bath University in the UK. So I won't discuss this because I think my time is So what I'm doing now, I will not do a constructed wetlands. It's not, maybe it's not applicable here. It needs I think the logistic, I wish to do this, but the logistic, the conditions hindered this. So what I'm doing now, I'm doing a column experiment with this material and using the iron nanoparticles, different type of iron nanoparticles. So what we do is we inject LECA in the column with the nanoparticles, and then we study the transport of the nanoparticle solution in the LECA. So we collect after, if you see here, the column after injected, connected to a pump, injected with iron nanoparticles. After we collect the solution, we test it via ICP-MS or ICP-OES, and we see how much nanoparticles retrieved, and how much nanoparticles retrieved in LECA, and how much nanoparticles ejected in the solution. Of course, LECA, it's composed of iron, and I am using iron. So this is the biggest challenge that I spent maybe 6 months to figure out how can I do this. And then we came to, I would say delicate procedure to do batch experiment without digestion the LECA itself, because if you digest it and assist then the iron, you will get both iron from LECA and from the nanoparticles. So to differentiate this, we use now the batch experiment. So just we manipulate the pH, the solution pH, and manipulate the ionic strength to finally have the nanoparticles that we need to assess. I already discussed these challenges, and this is my presentation. Thank you very much for listening.